Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Double Play. In this video, we are going to be doing our Giants preview episode. This is going to be continuing a series that we're going to do a preview for every team in Major League Baseball for the 2023 season. We're joined today by Priya Shelley. Priya, it's so nice for you to come on and talk some Giants with us. And obviously, I'm outnumbered now, but nice to welcome you on.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it. I'm really excited. So let's do this.
Yeah, Priya's one of the biggest Giants fans, making content on platforms like TikTok, got a lot of other baseball internships, and we've been wanting to get you on the podcast for a while, and it feels good. But yeah, you're right, Ryan. 2 Giants fans to 1 Dodgers fan. I feel at home in this episode a little bit more than I do in the normal ones, where I feel like we're always battling a little bit on the Giants-Dodgers front. But let's get right into this Giants offseason. Of course, we know the circumstances, but let's strip it back and objectively look at who the Giants added and who they lost out on. And notable additions include Mitch Haniger, Sean Manaea, Ross Stripling. They added Michael Conforto. Jock Peterson is back on a qualifying offer deal. And then they also added Taylor Rogers. Specifically, the one main guy that they lost was Carlos Rodon. Then you also look at some franchise pieces that were aging a little bit, but have been important contributors to the last couple squads. That's Evan Longoria and Brandon Belt. We're going to talk about which ones we think are the most important, whether that's the addition or the subtraction. And Priya, we'll let you start.
One big addition for me was our pitching staff. We had injuries throughout this last year. Alex Cobb got hurt, and it was just like I felt like we did not have a starting 5. Like we did not have a 5-day rotation going into this last year. We were always going back into the bullpen, having bullpen games, and it was just frustrating as a Giants fan sitting here being like, okay, who's going to be our ace next year? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do this? We have to have a solidified top 5. I mean, Logan Webb had a stellar year in 2021, and there are some rumors that, like, oh, people have Logan Webb as their Cy Young winner this year. He has a lot of expectations going this year, but one thing I feel like we added was definitely Ross and Sean Manaea. It was because we now have a solidified 5-day guys, and I feel like we have a little bit cushion too with, like, Jacob Jenkins and, like, all of these other guys, and, like, looking at them being like, okay, now we have a little bit of cushion, go 5 days. Maybe you have a bullpen day every now and then if someone gets hurt later on. But if Logan Webb stays healthy today, I think he announced that he's not pitching in the WBC anymore. And so I think going this year, we have a lot stronger of a rotation. And if we fix Sean Manaea just a little bit, because he kind of struggled a little bit last year. I think his ERA was sitting around like 4.3 and 4.9 maybe. And then Stripling coming from this Dodgers lineup, this Dodgers pitching coach is phenomenal. Like, I don't know what they're doing over there, but I mean, they fixed Tyler Anderson and they fixed a lot of other pitchers. So I hope he continues to pitch well, and I hope he continues to grow our lineup. And Taylor Rogers was, of course, a big impact. And I wish his brother would do a little bit better at the end of the day, because seeing Tyler Rogers pitch a couple times makes me a little bit nervous. But Taylor Rogers, such a great addition. I feel like our pitching staff is now complete, and with having Taylor Rogers, we're not heavily relying on Duvall to close out these 9th inning games. Not like looking at these other guys being like, okay, which shaky guy we're going to put out there today. We kind of have a more solidified bullpen and a pitching rotation, so I'm really happy. A subtraction. Yeah. Oh, you could go ahead. Sorry.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I knew you guys were going to go with additions, so I'll go ahead and sandwich in my objective point of view. Obviously, the biggest subtraction is probably Carlos Rodon, right?
100%.
I mean, last season or back into 2021, you fix Kevin Gausman, and then you go out and replace him with Rodon, who's a Cy Young candidate and probably will be a Cy Young favorite in the American League now with the Yankees. Mm-hmm. But this season, like how you replaced Rodon with Gausman the year prior, you don't really replace him, and I think that's the biggest subtraction. They get Stripling and Sean Manaea, like you said, but I mean, they're good replacements, they're solid, but I mean, the rotation as a whole, yeah, I agree with you. It's complete now, and they're definitely a little bit deeper. But in terms of like overall how they're going to perform this year, I think they take a little bit of a step back. In my mind, I know Jack will probably disagree, but I see Logan Webb and Alex Cobb as kind of low end starting pitcher 1 and 2, kind of respectively. And then I see Manaea and Stripling as both kind of 4 starters. Manaea's had better years where he's shown to be like a 3, maybe even a 2, kind of with the A's, but hasn't really shown it as of late with the Padres. So I think just replacing Rodon with those kind of guys, it wasn't enough for me. And they do replace some key pieces in the lineup. We mentioned Mitch Haniger, Michael Conforto, who I think Michael Conforto is one of the more underrated signings. I still believe in him. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the biggest loss for me is their kind of rotation and kind of where they need to be if they're going to be in the playoff hunt again.
Yeah, and I'm okay. Like, yes, seeing Brandon Belt leave was really sad for me because, this is Crawford's the last piece of this 2016, World Series like team. And seeing Belt leave, but his batting average, I mean, sitting at like barely 200 this last season, 230, I think. And you're sitting here, you're like, okay, am I gonna want like a guy that hits 270 in the lineup, like Mitch I can never say his name, like Mitch, or would you rather have like Brandon Belt? Like, and I mean, keeping JD Davis, I think they signed him to like an extension, so he's not sitting at like, this free agency deadline. And I mean, I was happy with the Michael Conforto signing. I was happy with both, and I was happy with Tommy Losella being DFA. Like Evan Longo, love you. You did had great moments, but it was time out with the old and with the new. It's like my new thing right now. I'm tired of seeing these old players that kind of stick around, do whatever. Let the young guys work. Our minor league system's pretty solid. We have a lot of guys that are going to come up and probably do some big things. Let these guys let them let them play. So I was okay with the Brandon Belt thing. I'm just battling injuries all year. You're just sitting here. You're like, okay, is he going to be healthy today? Is he not? Is he going to play? What is he going to hit? Is he going to go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts? Like, what's he going to do?
I feel like I sit in between both of you guys when it comes to the starting rotation. Where like I agree with you, Priya, that the Giants, it is probably going to be nice for them to have that solidified 5, and they are much deeper. But at the same time, losing out on Rodon, who I think, and I think Ryan and I would both agree, is possibly a top 5 pitcher in baseball. Like I would be 0% surprised if he wins the Cy Young in the American League this year. And so I think I agree with you on the aspect, Ryan, that maybe Logan Webb isn't going to be the ace that Rodon would have been. And so you're not as strong at the top half of the rotation, but they are a little bit deeper. You have Webb and Cobb, who can be a 1 and a 2. And then you rattle off all the rest of the names. You still have Alex Wood, Anthony DeSclafani. You have Jacob Junis from last year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Harrison's the best left-handed pitching prospect in baseball. And then you go out this offseason and you add 2, I think, quality starting pitchers who have proven to be good in past years. Ross Stripling a little bit more recently than Sean Manaea. But that's you list that off. That's about 7 or 8 guys who are going to fight for 5 spots. Now you assume Harrison's not going to start in the major leagues. Jacob Junis potentially is a swing man, and DeSclafani still potentially coming back from injury. They might try and ease him in. But I think it's good that they have depth, but I wouldn't argue. I don't think that the Giants got better on the pitching staff front. I think the bullpen they did, but from the starting rotation, I think I would have rather had Rodon. Now, I wouldn't argue that signing him for how much he signed as opposed to the deals that they got was the move I would want to see them make, because the Giants have proven a lot of people wrong in the past with some of these reclamation project starting pitchers. Like when you came into the 2020 season, no one thought Kevin Gausman was going to be a potential ace. Carlos Rodon looked like he might be the 2 starter to Logan Webb before he took off the rest of the season. Alex Cobb's another guy the Giants have hit on. Alex Wood. All these guys that we've mentioned are players who the Giants signed as like 4 or 5 starters. And here we are saying, they could be the 3. So they've got a good track record, but I'm not 100% confident that Sean Manaea and Ross Stripling are going to equal out what the loss of Carlos Rodon means. One place I am confident, though, is that I thought it was really important for the Giants to address the outfield, and I like the moves that they did, specifically when it comes on the defensive side of the ball, because you signed Mitch Haniger, who hit so many home runs in 2021. I believe it was 39 bombs in Seattle. Michael Conforto, who was a very solid hitter before his injury, and specifically adding those bats, I think is helpful for the Giants lineup, but also the way that they can arrange their outfield now. I think it's going to be very great for Gabe Kapler, because the defense was not good in 2022, but now you're going to have Haniger and Wright, who's got one of the best arms in baseball. Yaz and Slater splitting time in center, probably platooning with righties and lefties. They're both plus defenders. Conforto in left field, I think is pretty average, but it's better than Darren Ruff in left field or Jock Peterson in left field, who's going to be able to DH for the most part now. So I think that the Giants have a pretty solid outfield. There's no Aaron Judge there, which, I mean, all Giants fans wanted to see, but that's one place I think the Giants definitely did get better. And it was something they needed to do, because you cannot throw some of these guys that the Giants have been playing in left field out in the outfield anymore. Like your mean Mercedes cannot factor into your defensive game plan. And so I like the additions the Giants made in the outfield, hitting and defensively.
The one thing I'm really nervous about too, who are you going to put at first? You have Lamont Wade Jr. and you have Wilmer Flores and JD Davis playing first base. What guy is going to like who are you gonna put there? I was saying, I was like, sign Yuri Gurriel for 1 year, like $9 million deal, solidify a first baseman, because you're gonna have three guys who ideally have never played first base. Like maybe a couple games here and there. Wilmer's played there a fair amount. Like Lamont Wade Jr. will play there here and there. Like if Belt was hurt. I mean, and then they put JD Davis there. Like, yeah, JD's a utility player, but like I need his bat in the lineup, but it's just like it was just kind of like thrown out there, like, oh, just go play first base, like nothing. And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? What are we doing with this position? Are we going to solidify a first baseman here in a couple of years, or what are we going to do?
I think for the first time since they've had Brandon Belt for so long, this is gonna be the first time in a while where they have a platoon at first base. But I think it'll work. I think Lamont Wade Jr. showed in 2021 the kind of hitter he can be. He was injured a lot of 2022, so I think he's in between the level of player. But I think for the most part, he's an above average hitter. Especially like if you're only playing him against right-handed pitchers, he's gonna be an above average hitter. If he can learn first base,
The
you
shift's
split time
gone too.
Yeah, you split time with Wade and Davis at first, alternating them with lefties and righties, whoever's on the mound. I think that's a decent plan for first base. I think for the Giants, they'd love if either Davis can play third and Flores can play first, or if David Villar is a good enough player that they can elevate him from a bench role to solidify third, because Flores is not the best third baseman. And then you platoon those three guys at first base. You could potentially have Flores DH against a lefty if Peterson's not playing. I think I like the plan that they have. The only issue I have is whether Wade can learn first base, because he has not been great there the last couple seasons.
And if Wade's bat can stay consistent, that is one thing that scared me throughout 2022. It was just like you had this stellar 2021 season, got hurt, and then come in 2022, not even barely hitting over 200. And you're just sitting here like, okay, is he going to be good next year? Is he not? And same with this Yaz. Like, love Yaz, such good defender. But May, he'll have a stellar month, and then he'll go to June and just drop. And you're like, okay, what's going on between these months? Like, why can't you just stay consistent throughout like this stretch? And so it's just like these hitters, I don't know what's going on, if it's mentally or if it's just him hitting, getting to themselves. But I feel like a lot of them will like have an up month and the next one like down. Like it's just duds. And the people were trying to say like, oh, Lamont Wade Jr. is a dud. He was just a boof year, blah, blah, blah. But I think he has potential. Like I think he has a first baseman build. I think he can play there. If he learned it during spring training, I think we'll have a solid defense. And then Joey Bart behind the plate. The catcher issue does scare me though, a little bit. So we'll see.
Yeah. For me, I'm a Lamont Wade.
You're a little biased.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a Lamont Wade hater. I'm biased on the other end, but only because it was something 2021. Yeah, obviously the Giants have that ridiculous year, and it was late night Lamont like seemingly like twice a week, and it just pissed me off because I was talking with Jack the whole year. I was like, all right, Giants are gonna start. It's like May, they're in the first place. All right, June's going to be horrible for them. June, they're in first place. July is going to be horrible for them. And it just never happened. And Lamont Wade was one of those. So I mean,
inches from winning that game.
And it was always against the Dodgers, Lamont.
Always.
Kenley, he owned Kenley Jansen.
Oh, 100%. Like, it was like
so frustrating.
When he hit that foul ball, I was just like, just do it again, please. And so it was heartbreaking. It was a heartbreak. I rewatched that game pretty often, Game 7. It's in my most recently watched on YouTube. But
I don't think I could bring myself. No, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen. I know you did. But let's get into offseason grades. I mean, we've talked about all the moves and kind of talked about what we think of them specifically, but overall, especially when we take into account the fact that Giants fans thought they had Aaron Judge, the fact that we thought we had Carlos Correa, and even though I think the Giants were proven right to have their reservations about Correa, you still signed two guys and didn't end up with them. And the Correa fact, even though they let him go, they missed out on a lot of big free agents while Correa was still under a semi form of contract. And that's a big deal. You let Rodon go to the Yankees and Dansby Swanson go to the Cubs in that time where you were deciding on Correa. So there were some flubs by the Giants front office. There were some moves I liked, but Priya, why don't you start us off? What do you grade the Giants offseason overall?
I've been going back and forth all day about this. I've talked to like a lot of my friends who are Dodger fans, and then a lot of my fans who like are just like Giants fans. I originally had a B-, but I think I'm going to do a C+ because of the fact, yes, no Aaron Judge, no Rodon, no Carlos Correa. yeah, it's been like I think like 5 to 6 years since we had that big name. 2016, we didn't have any big names. Like it was just like Giants fans were just hoping to have, even if it was Correa, we were just like, oh my God, we finally have like our star, like the face of the franchise type thing. Like how Tatis is for like the Padres and like Juan Soto, like the Dodgers have, I mean, they have Freddie Freeman, they have like Max Muncy, like they have just well-known players inside their organizations where the Giants kind of are like, okay, what guy are you gonna bring up this game? What guy's gonna go back down? So a C plus is like where I stand because of a lot of false hope and just I mean, they did good with the things that they did lose, but there's a lot of things I wish we got Dansby. I wish we got stayed with Rodon, but I knew Rodon wasn't gonna stay. Like I knew midway, like trade deadline, and not even trading Rodon at the deadline. Like we could have if he was gonna leave no matter what, just let him leave, get prospects, like get something out of him. We let an ace go. Like it was just kind of disappointing to me. So I mean, C plus overall.
Yeah, for me, I ended up going with a B minus, but I kind of had two grades for the Giants because they were like a little bit special for me. I had a B minus as kind of their actual grade, and kind of looking at it from what they added, what they lost, I ended up going B minus. But I have like a C minus when you take into account the expectations of kind of even thinking they had Judge Correa might make it a little worse, but also just the expectations that you're going to get a star and then they don't. But I think in terms of the moves they actually did make and the guys they had on their team and lost, and I'm going with a B minus. I like they obviously increased. We talked about all the guys already. I think they increased their offense. Their offense gets better. While their pitching staffs maybe takes a little step back, and I think they stay about the same team in terms of results overall. In my opinion.
The
Yeah, I
thing is,
think
this feels like 2021 again. I just had a mid-team going into this season, so we'll see what happens.
I still think they got better. And even though I mean, they were bad last year, especially they were one of the worst teams in baseball for a long stretch of the
Hmm.
season and finished 500. I mean, they weren't out of the race. That's why I think they didn't trade Rodon. It's because they were never really fully out of the race like they've been in past years. And so you take a 500 team. I think they got a little bit better. We'll see what happens. But I think throughout the offseason, people do like offseason grades and they do winners and losers. I'm going to give the Giants a B minus as well, but I'll say that I still think they're losers. So objectively, I think their grade, it's not the worst because they made some moves that I liked, but overall I still think they're losers because they fell short of my expectations. They fell short of their own expectations. They let the fans down in many different ways. So I think they're losers, but I still think objectively they deserve a B minus. I think they got slightly better. I think the rotation took a step back. The one thing I wish they did a little bit more of was address the bullpen, but that's something you can do
Hmm.
as the season goes on. And it's hard to sign relievers in free agency, but adding Luke Jackson, adding Taylor Rogers, and then I think you just hope to get some of those guys back that everyone was just kind of down in 2022. The team atmosphere just was not conducive to great bullpen pitching. So I think they could take a slight step back, but objectively I went with a B minus, even though as a Giants fan, it feels like more of a C, if that makes sense.
One team that does scare me though is the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks got significantly better. They are missing pieces, but they this offseason they scared me. I was sitting here, I was like, we can not even be a third place team at this point if this Diamondbacks team continues to get better. Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, they added Evan, they added like they have a good rotation. You have Zach, you have just it just seems like a much better team than they were 2 years ago. Like looking at the Diamondbacks team 2 years ago, like, oh, they're just a joke. They've gotten significantly better, and their front office has actually done things to get better. So, I mean,
I'll save my
I
opinion on the Diamondbacks because we're going to do every single team. But I think that the Diamondbacks getting better and people projecting them to be a little bit better this season is more they had young talent that they've brought up and now is going to be up for a second year. I'm gonna save what I think of their offseason, but I wouldn't
yeah.
argue that they got better with the moves they made this offseason. I still
Mhm.
expect them though to be better in 2023, if that makes any
Yes,
sense.
100%. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna do my prediction with, I mean, my division predictions because I've been going back and forth between third place and fourth place, and if the Giants will actually be a wild card team or not. Like, I have, of course, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. I have the Dodgers. I don't think the Padres are ready to win the division. Like, yes, they have everything, they have all of the missing pieces, but are they good enough and can they stay consistent through the whole year? who's gonna get hurt, who's not gonna, and their pitching kind of takes it's a little iffy for me. So I have like Dodgers, Padres. I'm gonna put Giants at third, Padres at fourth, and Rockies, of course, at fifth, which I don't even know what they did, to be honest, besides sign like minor league guys.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I guess that can kind of like pivot us into the what to expect for the Giants. We touched on it a little bit, and I'll kind of give mine with my prediction. I've been saving this one from Jack. I've kind of been keeping my prediction for a while. I've been so happy to tell Jack and him to get very mad at me.
Well,
But
and
you
this is a bold prediction, team or player. We're gonna do it for every single team.
Yeah, every single team. I don't even know if this one's bold though, but I am gonna have the Giants finishing in 4th place, under 500, and the Diamondbacks going third. I've been waiting to tell you, Jack.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I don't blame you either. To be honest, I've been going back and forth, but the thing is, it's just I think we're still a better team over the Diamondbacks. Like just a little. I think this trade deadline, I think they're gonna acquire some big pieces. And so I mean,
Yeah, I think for me, I expect a lot of the same of last year. I don't think they're going to have that stretch where they are objectively one of the worst teams in baseball, but I feel like they're going to be either average or slightly above average just about every month. They might have a month where they win a couple more games over 500 and then balance it out the next month by finishing a little under 500. So I think I see another season flirting with that kind of last wild card spot in the National League, and then also flirting with the Diamondbacks, who I think will be on their tail most of the way. I don't think they have a shot at finishing above the Dodgers and Padres. I think if they make the playoffs, they're going to be the third team in the National League West, and they're probably only going to have a shot at that last wild card spot in the NL. But to get into my prediction, I went with player focused because I mean, I don't think it's bold. Like, I know it's probably a good prediction, but I don't think it's bold to say that the Giants finish fourth, because I think a lot of people are loving the Diamondbacks right now. My player prediction is going to be that Alex Cobb finishes with an ERA under 3 in 149 innings pitched in 2022. He had a 3.73 ERA despite a 2.8 FIP, and his BABIP, which is batting average on balls in play, was insanely high at 336 despite 61.5% ground ball rate, only allowed 0.5 home runs per 9 innings. Cobb was great, and it's kind of one in another long line of seasons where he pitches very well and results just don't add up for him. I think this defense that we've been talking about for the majority of this episode that did improve will help Cobb. Maybe he doesn't finish all the way under 3, but I wanted to go bold. I still think he can be that 2 starter, potentially even right alongside Logan Webb.
I 100% agree with you. He was really good just our defense messed it up for him. Offense couldn't produce, so it just kind of sucked. He had short outings sometimes, and then he ended up getting hurt towards the end of the season. And it was just like I saw a lot of potential. I thought he was going to be really good, so I hope they continue with him. But I mean, losing Kevin Gausman and getting Cobb, which is kind of like hurt my heart a little bit. But I mean, Cobb's been good for us. I'm not mad about it. But I mean, we'll see what happens when season starts, because it's scaring me right now, and spring training's right around the corner.
Do you wanna bring it home then with your bold prediction?
With mine?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with our record. I don't think we're gonna be. I mean, this is hard because I did put them in third. Let me go. I'll do a player because I've been thinking about this one actually. I have Jock Peterson hitting over probably 270 all year, and I have him hitting at least 35 home runs or more, because he kind of figured it out towards the end. He kind of fizzled for a while, and then he had the big game against the Mets, and then I just need him to be consistent, base hits, ground balls, move your runners, do your job type of thing. But I need those in those big moments. I need that home run, or I need this. Like, I need him to not change his swing and change his approach and be just Jock Peterson. And I want to see Jocktober. I want to see Jocktober on the Giants. That's what I said this 2 years ago when Jock was a free agent with the Dodgers, I think. I told my dad, I think I have the text somewhere deep in my phone, but I told my dad, Jock Peterson will be a Giant. Not this year, not when he went to the Braves, but the year after. Because I was like, I think this man wants to be in the Bay for a little bit. And here we are. I was like, I'm right. And so I hope Jocktober happens, and I hope Jock just continues to be Jock. And he can fully embrace the DH role because he won't be playing as much outfield. so he can only focus on like hitting and doing this. And maybe we'll sign him to a bigger extension. I think we overpaid him, but it's okay.
Because I think they knew, because they weren't going to end up with a ton of money on the books, that they could afford that qualifying offer. So he's only 1 year for the 19 mil, which I know, like, I mean, the Giants are the ones paying the money. It's not coming out of my pockets, but the cap hit isn't as big of a deal because they're not over the luxury tax as of right now. Ryan, do you have any more thoughts? Priya, do you have any more thoughts, or should we just bring this home?
I think I'm all good.
I'm looking. I'm just trying to see what else I have. The thing is, my thing is, who's going to stay healthy?
Yeah.
Because Crawford. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's a question. Giants specifically, you can point to a few guys who have kind of struggled, but yeah, I mean, question for every team, and that's the beauty of baseball. Maybe you get few few guys. I don't want to say injuries help you, but like you get some luck with the injury bug, and maybe they are a playoff team, and it's just kind of comes down to. We can see how it goes. That's the beauty of baseball. Anything can happen, like we saw with the Giants in 2021.
Yeah,
that's why we love it.
Yeah. Well, I think two of us say go Giants baseball in 2023. Priya, thank you so much for hopping on and joining us to talk about the Giants. We'll put all of your material, your links, your social media profiles down in the description. Everyone, if you're listening or watching, make sure you're going to follow Priya on all her different platforms and follow her along. And make sure you go follow her TikTok. That's where we found her. And Priya, thank you so much for coming on to talk about the Giants.